Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be starting a brand new campaign with the Lizardmen, Mazda Mundi, and we're going to be using SFO mod, and we're also going to be trying out the Mortal Empires Turn Destroyer, which should make the end turns a lot faster. And we'll explain how that works a little bit more in there. I'll have links to both of those mods in the description. Special thanks to Tolaneth and Regine for sponsoring this campaign. There have been several other people over the last couple of months that have also chipped in some money to sponsor a Lizardman campaign. It's been very highly requested. I decided to do Mazda Mundi because I got the most requests for that one. I know some people had wanted Sotek as well. We will try to confederate with Sotek as fast as possible. And some people wanted Eye of the Vortex, some people wanted Mortal Empires, so it was really impossible to kind of please everyone exactly what they wanted on this, because people were very specific, but hopefully I'm finding some middle ground here, where we're going to do Mortal Empires, Mazda Mundi, and of course we're going to try to confederate with the other factions as fast as possible. If you'd like to donate for a campaign yourself, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. Let me know what you have in mind. I am currently finishing up a Chaos campaign and a Norscan campaign. We're going to do this, and then after this, we're probably going to do some Dwarves and Wood Elves. But just email me, let me know what you have in mind. I can give you a timeline on the donation, but let's go ahead and get in here. Okay, so Mazda Mundi, it starts in a pretty difficult start position, I think. A lot of the Lizardmen outside of Krotgar have a kind of tough start. Krotgar, it says it's actually a hard start, but I think he's the most overpowered if you're just looking to first-time Lizardman. The main reason is he gets huge buffs to early game stuff, which is one of the weaknesses. I don't know, it's weird with Lizardmen because they are very strong in general, but with the SFO mod, they nerf the Saurus a lot early on. They're very, very expensive, and so with a lot of the Lizardmen, their early game's actually kind of weak, but because he gets the 25% discount on the Saurus early, and he gets a lot of extra like leadership and damage and just all kinds of stuff for Saurus, and he transitions really well with the armor to some of the beasts. He's one of the better early game lords for the Lizardmen. Now Mazda Mundi, it says normal, but I think it's actually pretty hard because you have to match up against Norska, which is kind of weird. It's like the only Norscan faction. Hey, thanks so much for the sub. I appreciate it. He's one of the only like Norskas that the Lizardmen would encounter, Skeggy. And with the SFO mod, we'll talk about it when we get in there. They're actually pretty hard to deal with early on. They have very good matchups against large monsters because of their javelins, and the huge buff to that was they also do anti-large in melee combat, as well as their javelins themselves are anti-large. They're almost like Lothern Seaguard in the sense that like they're ranged, but they also have like pretty good game against any cavalry that goes to try to disrupt them. So it's a pretty tough position there if you don't manage it well early, but I think I've got a strategy that's going to work for us as we go in there. I've practiced this run for probably about 4 or 5 hours, just a few opening turns, trying some different strategies out, so I think I got something good for us here. But anyways, Mazda Mundi gets, all of the lords get extra 25 winds of magic, which is very strong. Lizardmen have very good magic. The Rite cost minus 50% is a huge deal with one particular Rite, the Rite of Primeval Glory, that we'll talk about when we get in there. It gives you the early game push that you need if you play around it properly. Then you get an extra Slan Mage Priest. These were not very good in the base game. The normal Lord was much stronger. So we'll see how much they've buffed him up with this mod. And then he gets 25% off Temple Guard and 10 extra armor for Temple Guard. Temple Guard are not that great early relative to how much they cost. Yes, they, you know, they do have nice anti-large. They're 20, but as far as like top-end halberds, they're really not going to be that great. They're okay. I know someone's going to say, but they're good, they're good. It's like, yeah, but they're like 600 gold early on, and they only have 35 base melee attack. They only have 63 armor, so compared to something like Blackguard of Nagarond, they're just really not worth the cost early because you're just not facing that many like super dangerous large things early on. You know, you've got Norskins, you've got Empire, and you've got Skaven kind of all around you, and so they're okay, but we're probably not going to get a lot of them early on, so those bonuses aren't that great. Later on, we might get some of them, but even in the late game, you have Carnosaurs, which are probably better anti-large, I think, than these are, so They're a little underwhelming for their cost. They do have a heck of a lot of HP, though. So, I mean, it's not like they're terrible, but these bonuses really aren't largely impactful early. The -2 to all winds of magic cost is pretty good, because he can spam spells a lot during combat. So that's actually quite helpful. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in here. So legendary, very hard as usual. And what I'm going to try to do is we'll get some good fights here in the first episode. At least a couple of them, I think. But I'm going to try to do as much exposition as I can during the load screens and during in turn so that we can just kind of churn through these episodes faster. I'm trying to learn how to streamline the campaigns just to make them like progress a little bit faster so that we can go through so that we're just very efficient with our time. Let's go ahead and talk just really quickly as we're loading up here about the Lizardmen in general and how they play. There are a couple of different strategies you can use early. The Saurus are very expensive, as I mentioned before. You can stack a lot of Saurus, but that has been nerfed from the base game quite a bit. I think in the base game they're like 200 gold each or something, and in SFO they're like 300. So they're very, very expensive. Your other options are Skinks, which are pretty cheap, but they're much weaker than other tier 1 units, because a lot of the other tier 1 units have been buffed in SFO. So they're going to be the Skinks are going to be weaker than your Swordsmen. They're going to be weaker than Marauders. I think they're even weaker than Clan Rats, or they might be on par with Clan Rats, but they're very, very weak early. So you either have like super expensive infantry that's pretty good early, or you have really underpowered infantry that is that's kind of cheap. And you don't have any sort of like really reliable missile infantry. You do have the Skinks with the blow darts, which are kind of good skirmishers, but their range is really low. And frankly, their damage is pretty low too. They're mostly a support kind of unit early on. So we'll show you some of the units here, and then we'll get into a fight here in a second. So these are the Saurus. They require tier 2 to pick up now. And like their big claim to fame is this weapon strength here. They have 56 weapon strength as a tier 2 unit, which is very, very strong, obviously. Then they have good melee attack at 39 and good, like, okay defense at 29. 40 armor is okay. It's not amazing. They have quite a bit of health and good leadership, and they're kind of slow. So they're all right. But the problem is they cost almost 300 gold, and there are not a lot of good upgrades for them early. They do have 15% physical and missile resist too, which is good, and they do get like quite a bit of vigor off of spawning vigor. They can go berserk, which helps them out in melee, but you can't control them. There are some different mechanics you can use to control berserking with SFO, but they're all right. But like one thing you want to think about whenever you're like trying to choose which units you're going to get with any faction is just kind of looking at the early game technologies and red skill tree stuff you can get for that faction. And this only gives 6 armor and 8 melee attack, which is really low. You know, a lot of other early game like tier 1 units with other factions, you can get 8 melee and 8 melee defense and 8 melee attack, but the 6 armor does not make up for the 8 melee defense. So that's quite a bit weaker. This the Skink bonus is pretty good here, though, with 8 melee defense and then weapon strength and missile strength. So this affects just your melee Skinks, your blow dart Skinks, and also your hunting pack chameleons, which take a little bit of micro to use them correctly because they can easily, they can't firewall shooting. It takes them a little while to fire, and they can get blocked by a lot of line of sight issues, but the salamander hunting packs are pretty good. So, not great there, and the technologies are pretty weak overall. Your technology rate is also going to be low with a lot of the buildings that you get. So the techs require specific buildings, and then there are lots of buildings, like usually the military buildings reduce your research rate by 10%, and then your a lot of kind of your utility buildings give you extra 10% research rate. So if you try to diversify your army very much, then you're going to end up with low research rate anyways. And a lot of these techs really aren't amazing. It's stuff like, yeah, you get some extra recruit here if you get to those. It takes a long time. Like, each one of these takes quite a few turns to pick up, though. There's nothing really amazing here. Now, with the Saurus, they can get 5 melee defense, okay, and then 10% weapon strength and 5 melee attack. So you get an extra 5/5 with 10% weapon strength. So pretty good overall. It's just the main sticking point is that they're just so expensive. Just by comparison, The tier 3, like, monstrous unit, the Bastillodon, is cheaper than a backup Saurus. And this thing is good. So we're going to try to get some Bastillodons early with the Primeval Glory. But they have 30 melee attack, 40 defense, 100 armor, 10,000 health. So pretty solid. And then they get 25 bonus versus infantry. So they really have 55 melee attack versus infantry. So those are really great, just, you know, meatballs just to throw in the middle of their line. They are going to be weaker to spears and halberds, obviously. But they do cause terror. So it's a very early terror-causing unit. So against other factions that don't have very high morale, that can be good. They also have 15% physical resist and missile resist, which is pretty nice. So overall, decent unit, cheap unit that also causes terror. So these are very, very efficient. So I would much rather run these than Saurus, is what it comes down to. Salamander hunting packs are also similar cost to Saurus, but they have anti-large missiles. They're good at taking down like skirmisher cav type of units, or just, you know, big units in general. And they do splash damage on their attacks and have 125 range. So once again, not as much missile range as a lot of units out there, but still a pretty powerful unit that was a new addition with the latest DLC a few months ago. So those are pretty handy. Chameleon Skinks are getting a little bit expensive, but they do have pretty good damage, nice poison, and they do have 40% missile resist, but they have virtually no armor. So those are okay. And then their cav are okay. They're expensive as well. And their numbers are a little... They're all right. I mean, they're all right. So they have good weapon strength overall with armor piercing. And then they have okay melee attack, defense, and armor. So they're like on par with like Empire Knights probably. They have better piercing damage, but they have good charge bonus too. They're probably better than Empire Knights from what I'm remembering. There are less of them in a stack, but... those are pretty good, but they require their own tree. Now, these are a little more interesting, the Feral Cold ones, because they're only 144, so they're very cheap. They have fast attacks. They have Frenzy, which gives them 10 extra melee attacks. They basically have 40 melee attack, only 5 anti-large, but with their charge bonus, you can get in there for like 80 melee attack on the charge. They have 50 armor. So these are pretty good for like only 144. They're a new addition with the SFO mod, so those are pretty legit. Now, they do have low leadership, so they're likely to go berserk pretty quickly, but those are pretty solid. And then these are okay. Like, they're pretty good. They're very expensive for 600. They do have area attacks. These are pretty good late-game cav. They're not going to be, I don't believe, as good as, like, your Demigryph Knights and things like that, but they're pretty solid. They have a couple of, you know, different kinds of bonuses you can get there. Now, this Feral Call, giving everybody in your squad... within 70 range, the 10 melee attack, that's pretty legit for your unit. So we might revisit them kind of later on, but early on they're not great. So you don't have very good elite infantry, and your early infantry is either really weak, like these Skinks that are only 26, 29. I think Empire Swordsmen are 37, 37 on the melee attack and defense. They only have 13 armor, so you have kind of these weak Skinks early. Or you have the super expensive Saurus, so you just don't kind of have a good middle ground there. And then later on, you don't have any elite infantry. You do have the Temple Guards, which, like I discussed, are a little on the expensive side for what they are. Late game, they can be okay. So you don't have great missile infantry, and you don't have great melee infantry. You do have really good beasts, though. So there's a lot of utility on these beasts. You can get things like the Revivification Crystal here, which adds a lot of extra healing. On your Bastillodon at a reasonable cost of 320, and then they have most of the same stats as other Bastillodons. They do have a little bit less melee defense than the standard ones, but the healing is very nice. And then you have another one here, Bastillodon with Solar Engine, which gives out this strong vigor buff to everybody, does significant missile damage at range, and can still mix it up in melee for only 400. So pretty reasonable options in kind of your tier 4 for utility champions. Once again, these aren't going to blow people away, but they're decent utility. The Stegodons start to get a bit more expensive. Now, they did change these in SFO to be anti-large, which is kind of weird. They used to be anti-infantry as well as the Bastillodons. I guess they thought they were competing for the same like tactical purpose, but they're a lot weaker at large. Because you already have anti-large later on with your Carnosaur, so... it's a little weird to me that the Stegodons are, but maybe they thought that the they were just too good early. They're expensive early, though. I don't know. They were very nice against things like Skaven early on, but they've nerfed those out, unfortunately. So, Stegadon, not amazing early on. The Engine of the Gods is pretty good later, though. You do get some free wind magic here. You get a couple of different buffs, which are very nice, and you get some extra winds of magic. So, these are probably worth it late game, and obviously getting the Feral Carnosaurs are one of the best anti-large units in the game with 40 plus 40 versus large, so pretty good. Not going to be as good as like Dragon Ogres or something like that with Chaos, but pretty dang good. And these are even pretty good against normal infantry too. I mean, they have 75 armor. They still hit pretty hard. They have really fast attacks, so they're primarily used against large units, but they can mix it up against infantry too and still do all right. Their melee defense is not great, but they do have a good charge bonus and really good speed for a large monster, so they've got that going for them. And then we have like these kind of other mid-tier units. Croxagores are kind of your premier anti-infantry units. They have plus 20 versus infantry, area attacks. So pretty good. But once again, they can have some problems against halberds. So, you know, you're going to be trying to figure out how to deal with halberds all game. And if they have like really good missile infantry that's also anti-large, that can be a problem as well, like Sea Guard or any number of those other kind of like certain kinds of shades. I forgot which kind they are that are like anti-large. I think Dark Elves have shades that are anti-large. But anyway, so those are kind of the units here. So our strategy early on, let's just go ahead and get into a fight here. We're going to kill this guy. We don't have a lot of missile damage, so we're going to go for channeling stance to get a bit more magic. We should be able to auto-resolve this one. He's going to run away. Now, one feature of SFO mod is that the garrisons are very, very strong. So this makes it really difficult early on to make a lot of headway with them. We're just going to auto-resolve this. Take a little damage is fine. We would crush him. Okay. So this, we gain extra campaign movement range, but we lose research. So we're just not going to be able to get a lot of research in the kind of early game. Okay, so we get weapon strength. Probably put that on the Crocs. Crocs tend to level up pretty quickly. They get a lot of kills, so they are very good anti-infantry as long as it's not spears early. Okay, so we're going to take that. So Skeggy is a real problem early, but the issue is if you try to go up there, they're going to have a garrison that's going to have like 11 units in it, and typically they'll have another lord sitting there with like 4 or 5 units. So early on, you're going to start off with like, you know, your 8 stack. If you put your hero in there too, you can have 9 units versus like 15 or 16, and you're just not going to have the power to make that happen. So I like to go for the humans here. Now, they're okay as well. Like, you're going to be facing like 10 or 11 units here, but that's better than 15. And these guys get pretty dangerous because they have pretty good early spears. Like here, they have buffed up the spears a little bit. They gave more armor in general to a lot of the Empire units early, which I don't know why. Like, the Empire swordsmen are already really strong. But these guys, I think it's at 15. Yeah, they get 15 bonus versus large. This will tear up your dinos early. So you really do not want to face large stacks of Empire early. So what we're going to do, the overall strategy here, and then we'll go down here, and this is going to be our real fight. We're going to take out Empire early, here and here. That'll also give us a couple of ports for more money, more growth. And then when Skeggy comes down here, they're going to take Port Reaver. Then we're going to hire... we're going to use this Rite early on that you can get called Rite of Primeval Glory. What this does is this summons a massive army in your capital that just has like a ton of Bastillodons, Carnosaurs, Stegodons. It's got a whole lot of crap, and it can move the first turn that you hire it. So I don't remember if it's a full 20 stack, but it's a lot of beast. It's a super powerful army early that there's no way you can afford normally. And it usually costs 15,000 gold to hire it. But with Mazdamundi, it's only 7,500. And that also gives you the ability to summon Feral Cold Ones, which is, you know, just a little bit of extra free cav that you get. And you get a 25% discount on pretty much all of your beasts for 15 turns. So you can only use it once every 50 turns, but I think this can give you the real shot in the arm that you need to be able to beat some of these other factions early. Because like I said, your infantry is not really that amazing early, and like you really don't start coming online until tier 3. But your buildings are very expensive, and you're going to have to fight people to get all of your properties in order to get enough growth in your capital. Because we look here, we're only getting 10 growth right now in Hexaodal. So it's going to take a million years to get to tier 3. Which is where we can start getting stuff to kind of start being competitive. Like, you know, our Salamander Hunting Packs, Skink Chief, Bastillodons, things like that. These are pretty expensive, too. I mean, they're going to be like 700 or 800 to hire. So 7,500 sounds like a lot, but really you're getting probably like 12,000 gold worth of stuff that you get to hire for free. And then you can delete a lot of it. You can hand a lot of it off to Mazdamundi. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hire, as soon as Skeggy comes down here, takes Port Reaver, we're going to hire that insane army, run over here, kill him with that, and then we're going to hand off a bunch of the stuff to Mazdamundi. After that, we're going to keep all of the Bastillodons. We'll probably keep the Feral Carnosaurs, and we'll see kind of where we're at there. But we're going to need a lot of money because that stuff is very expensive, and I'd like to keep as much of it as possible. It also comes in rank 9. All of the dinosaurs are rank 9. Which is going to make them really powerful. So, keeping that in mind, that's what our strategy is going to be. Ranking up Mazdamundi, we want to try to see if we can get to the discount as fast as possible, the Geomantic sequence here. So we want Lightning Strike, so that'll help us out against the Skaven, which we'll have to face here pretty soon. It's just a very strong ability in general. And then this gives us 15% upkeep on all units, and this is going to give us an additional 8% upkeep. So that'll give us 24% discount on all units. Now, a lot of the Lizardmen Lords will have a special skill that you can get eventually, like around level 10 or so, which is a 20% discount to a lot of your large beasts. Mazdamundi doesn't have that, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. But he does have some other stuff that's really strong later on. He's very good. He basically gets 2 free Vortex spells with Focus of Mysteries, and Ruination of Cities is a really powerful wind magic spell that he gets to cast for free as well. So Vortex spells are usually about 20 mana each, and so this is almost like he gets 80 free Winds of Magic off of that, and then he gets 10 here, 20 here, and he gets 25 off of his passive, and all of his spells cost 2 less. So he gets a lot of magic. He's one of the best casters in the game, late game, but he sucks early. He's only got 25 armor, 27 melee attack, 35 melee defense. He's 34 move speed, so he's just awful early on, so you cannot fight with him at all. He does have a pretty good missile attack, but he only has 10 ammo early. So yeah, he's not that amazing early on. And then he's got a couple of good items here. But once he gets to level 18, he gets a mount, which gives him 100 armor, much better movement speed, and like he can kind of fight at that point. He's still not going to be amazing, but he can kind of fight when he's mounted up on Zlok. Other things, like some of the stuff that he has, he can get regeneration eventually, which is pretty good. The terror is kind of a waste because he's already going to cause terror when he gets on that mount. So these aren't that amazing, but they're okay. As far as magic goes, you can go Burning Head early, which is very, very good, and we do want to get that eventually. It's arguable that you should get 2 points in Burning Head right now. I might actually do that. Like, it's just so good against a lot of these units that just want to group up a lot. So we might go for Burning Head and then try to go for the discount. This discount's pretty important, but like making sure that we win these fights is also important. So I think we'll go ahead and go for 2 points in Burning Head. It does lower the cost of it a little bit. And it just wrecks anything that doesn't have a lot of armor early on. So Burning Head is going to be our big damage. Eventually he can get Great Ruination, or Great Rumination rather, which gives him just a ton of extra mana and like cooldown reduction on a lot of his abilities. So it's just really, really good for casting. He can only do it once per battle. Some of his other spells, he has kind of a weird mixture of spells. So he has these pretty good like single buff spells. Apotheosis is pretty nice. It heals up, I think 600 HP. So that's pretty good on some of your heavily armored dinos like the Bastillodon. They can just tank for years with Apotheosis, which is great. Curse of the Midnight Wind is a really good debuff you can put on a lot of people. He lacks a Vortex spell, though. He doesn't have Chain Lightning, which is something that the the skink priests have, which we'll be getting that for sure. He does have these 2 spells, but like early on, you can't get Chain Lightning, which is really, really powerful when you combine it with dinos. Because if you run like a Bastillodon in against a bunch of infantry, they're all going to clump up around it, and then you cast a Chain Lightning on that. It'll do barely any damage to the Bastillodon because it doesn't do a lot of damage to single targets, but it'll completely melt all of the infantry. So we do have Burning Head to help with that. Comet of Cassandora is okay, but I don't like it as much as Chain Lightning. So he has pretty good spells, but not quite as good as you would hope, as I would hope anyways, but they're okay. So we'll go with this, and then we'll go down into the blue tree here in a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and get this fight going. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack this first. Yeah, declare war. No one else is at war with them, so we can't get anyone to pay us for it. Okay, and then we're going to encircle. Then we're going to have this guy join. We're going to end up deleting this guy. He's just too expensive. He's like 320 gold a turn. It is really nice if you level him up, but money is definitely like a huge deal, and he just really doesn't do a lot early on. And I would really just enjoy saving that money. Like, basically, do I want him, or do I want to keep another level 9 Bastillodon? Or Salamander Hunting Pack? Or, like, all these other things that I'm going to get with Primeval Glory? And I think the answer is I'd rather have a Bastillodon than him right now. So, like, he's alright. He just doesn't have a lot of health. He doesn't have a lot of armor. Like, his melee attack is not that good. Like, he kind of sucks. He's one of the worst heroes in the game, I think. However, a lot of the Lizardman heroes aren't good, but if you get him to a really high level, then he does get a Carnosaur mount, which obviously is going to be really good. Although his melee attack is still pretty low, even for a Carnosaur, so. But that does make him a bit more attractive, but that's like really late game. So a lot of the Lizardmen are like very strong late, but like early on they can struggle, so. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, we're gonna fight it. Like, I don't think they are. The thing is, they're not very diverse. Like, it's just you have huge, large monsters. You have pretty good magic to wipe up infantry, and that's basically it. So, like, you can be really weak, as I mentioned before, if they have very elite, like missile units, like high elves or whatever. That's why we're gonna try to play nice with high elves as much as we can. Then that's a problem. Like Sisters of Avalorn would be a huge issue later on. But, you know, they are just huge meat sticks. They have a lot of regeneration, so they're very unique. So in their own way, they can be very difficult to deal with if they're played correctly and you have the right kind of composition for them. They can be tough to deal with. Okay, so we'll put these in here. Probably hold on to the Temple Guard for now, just because we do need a front line. Although, debatable, like, I could hire, you know, 5 or 6 skink units for the price of those Temple Guard. You'll see after the fight. The Temple Guard just really do not put up big numbers most of the time. Okay, we'll have him on the front line. The thing is, like, spears do extra damage to Crocs, but Crocs also do extra damage to spears. So it's kind of a mix there. Halberds are a little more troublesome because halberds usually have a range of 2. Okay, so we'll move these up here because they do have some range capabilities. We'll put the Bastillodon in there too. So that's kind of our front line. Secondary line here, and then the line of sight can be an issue with some of these units. We'll also put the Saurus Warrior in here. I mean, we're going to get rid of them anyway, so we might as well. Skink Priest is more interesting than the Veteran because he's very cheap and he has the poison debuff, which is nice. Oh, we can put this on him and it gives him perfect vigor. So this unit is very expensive, but it does have some really nice AoE buffs, so we might end up keeping that one around. Yeah, we need to just get some of these spears out of here. We want to just cast as many of these little cheap spells as we can so we get a discount on them. They don't do a ton of damage, but Mazdamundi has a lot of magic, so yeah, they're actually backing up. AI is pretty smart. They outrange us. Let's go ahead and back up out of that. I'm going to go ahead and use some healing magic here, too, on my Bastillodon. Get him kind of decked out there. So we'll try to just come around with these and flank a little bit. Thin out some of these spears. And one of the annoying things is you have to constantly like flip back and forth through your spellbook because you have so many different kinds of winds of magic. Now they're all lined up. And that's how you wipe out a line with Burning Head. Just get in here. Yeah, we just want to disrupt these range units as much as we can. Yeah, I don't really care about this guy just sitting here firing on us. It's fine. I'll run those dudes down. I'm okay with the Saurus being kind of berserked over here. We'll go ahead and heal him up a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. I want to use a full-on Burning Head here. I guess we could just go ahead and do it. We got so much mana. This also lowers their leadership by like 8, so and that's a bit further away than I thought. I thought I was going to be able to cast that a bit faster. Okay, there we go. So that should make them all run. These like level 1 spears are bowing up, like they're going toe to toe with my tier 3 Bastillodons, which is not good for business. Now these guys cannot fire while they're running away, which is kind of annoying, but yeah, those dudes are running too. May just hit my own dude there. It's not good. Okay, it's not bad. So it is kind of cool that you do have a good diversity of units early. you know, I know I said that, like, late game, they're not that diverse, but, like, early game with, like, the skink units, you know, it's a very skirmisher playstyle. You gotta get the right kinds of matchups, so. Okay, let's go ahead, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to just heal up our big units, single entity units, most notably this Bastillodon. Because, like, your multi-entity units, like the Croxagores and things like that, they're going to kill as many as we can. That's while we wait. Healing them up. Well, actually, this does resurrect dead things, so it might be useful to heal up these Croxagores if I could get one more out of it. But in general, healing up your low units with any kind of regeneration at the end of a fight is usually pretty good. Because their replenishment... like, they don't... At the end of a... What am I trying to say? At the end of a fight, you get all of your models back that are injured. So, for example, if these guys look like they're at 50% health, but all of their units have, like, only taken 50% of their HP, but we haven't actually lost any models, then they will heal back all the way to full at the end of a fight. But, like, the Bastillodon is always going to be at whatever this HP is at the end of the fight. And so, that's why it's important if you have any magic left and you don't mind, you know, just hanging out at the end, just getting that full regen on them can matter, potentially. It kind of sucks we got close battle, because I'm not sure if we're going to level up off of that or not, but... yeah, I mean, look at these things. Look at how expensive these are, these Temple Guard. Now, yes, they were not perfectly matched up against large, but once again, we're not going to be facing a lot of large early. Like, we might face some Rat Ogres early. You know, Norskins, we're going to kill them before they get a lot of large stuff. So, you know, we're just not going to be facing a lot of large stuff in the early game, and so they're so expensive. Like, we need something probably to win. I thought we won that pretty decisively. I mean, we only lost 80 units. We had a third of the units they had, but I guess they thought it was close victory. But either way, like, this guy killed 6 units. 6. Like, he was literally sitting there, if you go back and watch, he was sitting there fighting sword units. I'm pretty sure. He was sitting there the entire time, just fighting a pack of swords by himself, completely surrounded. He only killed 6 of them. 6. Let that sink in. This hero that cost 300 killed 6. This Bastillodon was chasing people half the time. He wasn't even in combat. He killed 78. They're the same cost. So it's like, it's not like this guy's completely worthless. Late game, if he's on that dinosaur, yes, he's good, but he has to get to level 18 for that. So that's why I'm going to delete him, is because I just want to save the money so that I can be ready whenever I use the Primeval Glory to do what I need to do. To keep as many of those dinos up as long as I can, so that we can kind of go on a killing spree and just wipe out Skeggy and all of these Dark Elves and just murder everybody on, like, turn 10 when we can summon that. And I don't think I can play nice with the Dark Elves. They really hate me. So it's tough because this property up here is red later on, so I can't really occupy it. Why? Because it's considered frozen. Now, this might be mountain. I think it's frozen. I would really like to get Quintex, because it has a special anti-corruption thing, which is a cool building, but really, I'm not going to be facing that much corruption, probably. It's just a cool town. It's really fun when you siege it. It looks awesome. But we'll probably just burn this stuff, and then we'll let... or we can occupy it and just let rebels burn it. And then we'll try to play nice with the elves and just let the elves occupy it. Okay, anyway, so we're going to level this up here. I think we just go Root Marcher. Now, once again, I could level up some of this red stuff here, but we're going to have a big diversity of things. We're going to have Salamander Hunting Packs. We're going to have Carnosaurs. We're going to have Bastillodons. Like, all of these are under different trees. Like, we'd need Beast Driver, Hunt Leader, Skirmisher. Skirmisher is the one that I might get in a little bit. Now, Thunderbolt, -2 on Thunderbolt is not, like, for 1 point. It's 40-second cooldown, though. That would make it cost, like, 2 or something to use a Thunderbolt. I think we need to stick to our guns, though, and get down here. We already spent 2 points going for Burning Head. Yeah, I think we'll go with this. And then I just want to go Ancient Cunning, probably. Like, Bonded Service is very good, the extra unit experience, but we're going to have a bunch of level 9 dinos, so it's not going to matter in the early game. I'm just all about surviving this early game as much as possible. And Ancient Cunning is very nice. The campaign movement range alone would probably make this potentially worth. Campaign movement range is kind of a hard stat to come by with a lot of factions. I don't remember if we get followers that give it or not with Lizardmen, but the ambush success chance is actually quite relevant too. So I think we're just going to do Ancient Cunning first, and then we'll get a point in Bonded Service and try to get over there and get the discount ASAP. Okay, so Port Reaver, gives us some nice money. This is going to be our bait for Skeggy to come get this, and once again we can summon that crazy army and go kill him on the first turn. Like, it can move as soon as you summon, which is questionable. That seems a little overpowered, but okay. This guy doesn't have any items. Strategist. Campaign movement range is very good, so I hate to get rid of him, but yeah, I think we got to give him the boot. And then we do get a discount on these, but still, they're so weak. Like, okay, so all we're going to be doing, though, is we're just going to be fighting Swamp Town next turn, most likely, and it doesn't really have very much. It's got a few units here and there. Kind of on the fence if I can afford to get rid of these or not. I want to trim as much cost so I can save as much as possible here, but we need to keep this guy. He is expensive, but this right here, this aura to give everybody strong vigor, is very, very good. And he does quite a bit of damage too. Like, he pulls his weight. Definitely keeping the Crocs. Bastillodon, we need to keep him for now, though we'll probably replace him with a level 9 one down the line. Saurus are expensive, but we need a front line. We'd save 381 per turn if we got rid of him. What's our front line, though? I guess just these guys. Bastillodon. Alright, I'm going to try it. I'm going to get rid of them. Even though we do get a discount on them, even though they are, like, fairly strong in combat, they're just so expensive still. I think we can beat Swamp Town without them, although our units are injured. I tell you what, I'm going to hold on to him until we take Swamp Town, and then we're going to go over and try to grab at least one of these, maybe both of them, before Skeggy comes down here. And then we'll figure it out from there. Okay, and then I think we can afford to go with this and the gold mine. And then I think we might actually get rid of this for now, because we're not going to need to hire these for a while, because we're going to have all the dinos. We'll get this back eventually. So if we sell this, we can sell it for, I think, 600. Let me say. Yeah, sell it for 600. So we're losing 400 gold if we have to reconstruct it eventually. But we also get to hire, or we get to build this, which gives us 150 per turn. That costs 750. So when we sell that, we'll sell it for like 400. So we'll be losing 350 off of buying the, or like buying this and selling it, and then we'll be losing 400 off of this. So that's like 650. So pretty much if, and I don't know how many turns it takes to build this, probably 1 or 2. And then this costs 1 extra turn to build, or 2 turns to build. So basically we need, what, 6, so 5 turns, 7 turns or so. And this is going to take 1 turn to destroy. So I think if we don't need the skink building for 7 turns, then it's worth it to sell this and then buy this and just sit on this, and then we can sell it back eventually. We're also going to have 2 extra slots when this finishes. I mean, if I sell it, it's going to take 1 turn to sell, and then 2 turns to build. And then we can just probably hold on to this. I'm just trying to think of how much money I can get ASAP for that thing. I think that's a good idea, because we don't really need, like, the skink skirmishers are pretty good, sort of. But with all the dinos, we probably don't need this building until we get to tier 3. Even then, we may not have the money to buy it. Like, that's 6,000 gold. I'm going to be real short on cash. I think we just sell it. Could be a mistake. We might need skinks just so that we have a bit more frontline. But I think we can just frontline with Bastillodons and probably be okay. Okay, so we're going to sell that. We're going to hold on to our port here.
I'm waiting. What can the Asur of Ulfuan do for you, Slan? How wise. Of course.
Okay, so we get a little bit of trade. Not going to have a lot to trade right now, but we have some. Skeggy, we killed New World, Mutineers. We do not want to do business with these people. High Elves will not like us, but do business with them. Okay. And then yeah, I think that's it. Got rid of everything we want to get rid of. Alright, so that's basically the first episode. So hopefully, you know, like I said, there's a bit more exposition there. I just wanted to let everyone kind of know where we are, what we're gonna do, what our strategy is. Just explain some of the different things you can do. So, you know, you can try to rush Saurus early. That's a good strategy with Krotgar. You can try to rush Skinks early. That's a better strategy with Tehinowen, who gets a lot of bonuses to Skinks. But I think Hexaodl, his big claim to fame is the 50% off of Primeval Glory. And so you really have to take advantage of that early, because his other stuff, the Temple Guard bonuses and things, are not that great. The magic is not that great early. It's okay, but you just can't really take advantage of it because you can't afford to buy a lot of spells because you need other stuff early on. Okay, so we're just going to do the faction-wide caps and not the army caps. That would just kind of ruin our strategy with the Primeval Glory. It just kind of invalidates that pretty much with the army caps. And then it's just really weird with Beastmen because you need so many big beasts and they all compete with each other for like the elite unit slot, which is like you can only have 4 of them in an army, where you need a lot of big beasts. Like that's how they function. They don't have small stuff that's good like other factions. So I think that the army caps is just particularly harsh on Lizardmen, and it just kind of sucks. Like it basically forces you to go skinks, like if you go with that, and it's just Mazdamundi doesn't do that well. So I'm gonna do the faction wide caps because even the Saurus count as a special unit under that system. So, yeah, it's probably a good idea I held on to Temple Guards. We're going to have to fight Andreas Toddbringer here. They get to hire Lords at rank 7, by the way, on Legendary SFO. But anyways, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you very much. Next episode, we're going to come down here, and then we're going to take out Swamp Town. We're going to go for Macau Peaks. And then we'll see. We might go for Shrine of Sotek. But we might also just run back up here pretty soon. But yeah, it should get spicy. We're going to summon that Primeval Glory pretty soon. But anyways, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Check out the rest of the stuff on the channel as well. We have a lot of different legendary campaigns. If you're interested in sponsoring a campaign, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. I'll set that up for you. And that's going to be it. Have a good day.